This is the Hidden Killers Podcast with Tony Brueski.
You're listening to the Hidden Killers Podcast
with Tony Brueski.
We are talking with Dr. Laura Anderson today about religious abuse and religious trauma, something we see all too often pop up in these horrible cases that we talked about here on the program. I mean, it's easy on the outside looking in, without a doubt, for anybody to play armchair quarterback and say, why wouldn't you do things this way? And one of those things that I think a lot of people look at is Josh's wife, Anna Duggar, who's still there. You know, they got the kids. I understand, that aspect of it, being a parent to a certain extent, but not this at all. To me, the best thing I think that could happen for those children is that they never see their father again for the rest of their life and just live a life that is not going to be filled with that sort of chaos. I would imagine in your practice, you've had people come in maybe not exactly the same sort of circumstance, but coming out of something and maybe they know something's a little bit off or they really know something's off. But what would you say to someone like Anna who's in that sort of a situation? I mean, it totally looks like she's still wrapped up in a cycle of abuse and not seeing any way out. How does someone who is in that sort of situation move to a place of I guess, enlightenment, if you will, and the ability to see what they've been going through is not right for them or their family?
Yeah. So a little backtrack, but it applies to this. Before I started working with religious trauma and spiritual abuse, I worked almost exclusively with victims of domestic violence. So mostly women who were in or trying to get in or had just gotten out of domestically violent relationships. And one of the first things that we started to do was, or one of the first kind of steps, even in getting them out, was helping them reconnect to their own voice. Meaning, what do I think? What is right for me? What matters? What is my value? What do I want? Because so many times in a high control relationship or a high control religion, which are basically the same dynamics, what the perpetrator or abuser or the person in charge does is they seek to take away your independence, your autonomy, your sense of self-identity, and they replace it with theirs. And so if we can start to tap back into who am I? What do I really think? What do I really want? And get them being a little bit curious about what's going on. That's usually a really good space to start, because then they're able to go like, oh yeah, that's not right. Why is it okay for this person to do this, but not me? Mm-hmm. Why would this person get punished on the outside world for this, but not here? And instead the victim's blamed. And so I think that ability to be curious is a really good place to start, because it's not just, leaving the relationship. We've seen enough reports on the news of victims of domestic violence who try to get away. And in that getting away, that's when they are severely harmed or killed, right? And so we know that's the most dangerous time. And so we don't ever want to just say, hey, just go ahead and leave, whether it's leaving the church, leaving a person. I think about Anna Duggar in particular. She has a whole group of kids that she's got to take care of. She doesn't have any real way of earning income. She doesn't have skills. She didn't go to school to learn things that would give her the ability to provide for her children. On top of that, she's got her parents and in-laws that are deeply entrenched and invested in keeping her under their control. Most people don't know that Anna came from a very fundamentalist family as well, the Waller family. And so she doesn't have any support outside of that. And so to say, Anna, you just need to get up and leave, where is she going to go? What is she going to do? Now, her in particular, she might, because of her notoriety, just as a Duggar, she may have some access to resources, but most people don't. And so when we're looking to how do we get out? We have to start slowly. The way that I work with clients who are getting out of high control religions, whether that's a cult or a very high control religion, is the same way I advise with a domestically violent relationship. We make a plan, we take our time, we, look for supports, whether that is financial support, housing support, job support, emotional support, relational support. And we do it slowly so that when the moment comes where you go, okay, it's time, we actually have something to fall back on.
That makes a lot of sense. And if she never had been given the tools in childhood to do that,
Yeah.
I mean, it is. You look at, and like I said, so easy on the outside to look in and say, why not? Well, she has no idea. If she was never trained, she was never raised to see that. And she's in a very insulated environment where they don't learn that. They make a point to not teach you that, to very much keep you under their control. Why? What is that, though? Why the desire for such control in some of these communities? I mean, it just seems that seems very much of this earth. That seems very much a human idea, not so much a Jesus or God or this or that. Seems very much a very male type. I need to keep things under wrap type attitude. How is that justified in groups like that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that religion and many other groups outside of religion, so this is not, religion doesn't have the corner market on this, but religion understands that as humans, we really thrive on things like certainty and stability and safety. And so when you put parameters, rules, what's good, what's bad, that speaks to a human's nervous system and says, okay, well, if I just do everything on the good list, then I'm going to be safe and stable and connected. And in some cases, I have a great eternal destiny waiting for me. And that feels very appealing. And if I do the bad things, then we have the opposite. But what happens then is there's people, and I believe this comes from fear and just kind of this feeling of constant overwhelm of going like, okay, but we need a little bit more of this and a little bit more of that. And this interpretation here. And so all of a sudden we are creating these rules that are putting people into tinier and tinier boxes. But to be inside that box then means you're safe. And, I think that can be extreme. Like it's playing on the human desire to be safe, truly. And so they go, okay, well, we can be safe. And then there's also human desire to be powerful, to, to be able to exert yourself. And I think in patriarchal systems, it can be really nice to be in a powerful position and to create a lot of rules with some really devastating consequences if you don't play by that. It gives them that sense of, human certainty and safety as well.
Yeah.
I don't agree with it, but we see it all the time. I remember years ago, I was reading a book by Eckhart Tolle, and he was talking about the origins of different kind of world religions. Because he says, like if you look back, all of the major religions kind of have the same plot lines. There's, there's always the same points. And he said, but what happened then is in this need for certainty to understand what is life, what happens after death, things like that, people start creating rules, and then they want to be right about those rules. So they create more rules. And it's an attempt to be good and worthy and saved, but it's at the expense of human autonomy and self-identity and uniqueness and all the things that make humans beautiful. We just try to shave it down and make it very knowable.
Yeah.
And it ends up taking away people's autonomy.
Yeah, I mean, it's very much a trade-off, it seems, and it's obviously fairly important to indoctrinate young people into this while they're more moldable, because it doesn't always work so great the more one lives life. But yeah, it's a trade-off very much of, hey, you are going to have safety, you're going to have this family, you're going to have this and that, and look at all these great things that you're going to have in your life, but you go outside our bounds, you're going to rot in hell. And I mean, it's like, what worse thing could you say to someone to scare them of like, I'm going to literally burn? So yeah, I mean, I can understand how that can make an impact on a child. I mean, I remember coloring in Sunday school and like, what are we drawing today? And it's flames. And it's a woman that turned into a statue of salt as she ran away from the city. Like, I would love to get my hands on these coloring books again that we had back then, because they're insane. But we were just like, this is great back in those days.
Want to listen ad-free? Want advanced access to all of our interviews before anyone else? Become a True Crime Today Premium Plus subscriber on Apple Podcasts.
You get every episode commercial-free.
So you can binge on true crime
until you can binge no more.
Search True Crime Today Premium Plus on Apple Podcasts now, or go to our podcast page and sign up now.
More of the Hidden Killers podcast next.